Hello everyone, and welcome to the Human Art Project. My name is Angie, and I'm your very real human artist. The Human Art Project is an anti-AI movement. All of the artistic endeavors on this channel are meant to be fun, inspirational, silly, messy, and enriching, all in the hopes of reigniting the creative spirit. Today, I'm going to show you how to make an awesome foam pumpkin. This is a costume I made a few years ago, and yes, I won the company Halloween contest that year. Here it is in all its glory. Stick around and I'll show you a step-by-step so you too can make your very own foam creation. First off, you'll need to work somewhere with good ventilation, preferably a dank garage with serial killer-esque lighting. You will need the following: a spray bottle with water, a bowl or container that you don't mind destroying. I'm using a small one to show the process. However, if you want to make a large pumpkin big enough to put your melon in, you'll need a big one like this. This one was purchased at the dollar store. Next, you'll need spray insulation foam. My foam of choice is this tight foam. You'll also need some gloves and an optional putty knife. To use your spray foam, open it, apply the nozzle, and shake vigorously. Then, spray your bowl with water. This helps set the foam and simultaneously helps prevent it from sticking to the sides. Water is your friend. Use water. Next, position your canister upside down and press the trigger. Work the foam around the bowl in concentric circles until the outer edges of the surface have been completely covered. Give it another spritz of water and let it sit. This is a small bowl, so the foam is actually much thicker than anticipated. It works better on larger bowls, as you can see here. Now do yourself a favor and let it sit. Don't mess with it. Don't do what I'm doing. Resist the urge to plunge your hands into what looks like melted marshmallows. I'll be honest, I almost screwed this up, as I hadn't touched this medium in a few years and couldn't remember how long the foam takes to set. Just leave it alone for at least 10 to 15 minutes. As you can see, it's still sticky and quickly losing air. If you mess with it, it'll deflate like a sad birthday balloon. To salvage it, I'm applying the gelatinous blob onto the exterior of the bowl so it keeps its shape. This is something you can totally do at around the 7 to 10 minute mark. If you want to sculpt and smooth out the material, it's fine. It'll be fine. I'll just add more foam around the edges to fill out the shape, and I'll be smart this time and let it sit while I eat dinner. Here I am giving it a little pat with the putty knife. As you can see, the top has set, but the bottom with the new foam is still a little tacky. I'm just giving it a little tappa 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 to ensure everything is secure and the shape is a little more uniform. Feel free to give it another spritz of water to expedite the setting process, and you should be good to go. Yes, we have what kind of resembles half a sphere. It's looking rather organic and pumpkin-y, if I do say so myself. I'm happy to say I've saved this project from disaster. This is the level of rigidity that you're looking for. Next step, repeat. But make it better this time and learn from your mistakes. The idea here is simple. Put the two halves together to make your sphere. Because the two halves are imperfect, there's going to be a defined space around the edges. Simply rotate them until you can get a better fit, or you can take an X-Acto knife and flatten out the edges. I'm too lazy to do that at this stage, and honestly, we can just fill in the holes with more spray foam. One thing that is clearly essential is to work right next to electrical outlets and to be spraying water constantly, because burning down your garage is a part of the creative process. Don't worry, I eventually moved those out of harm's way. So let's get the worst camera angle possible. Shake up your spray foam, and now apply a liberal amount around the edge, just like you're icing a cake. The goal here is to have enough on the edge to seal the two halves together and to make what looks like a giant macaron. To make our little pumpkin resemble our big pumpkin, we'll need to create the vertical striations. This makes our creation look more like a pumpkin and helps further adhere the two halves together. In order to do that, I'm going to use my big ol' pumpkin bowl, invert it, and use it as a pedestal. Place your sphere on top, shake your spray foam vigorously, and starting at the top, draw a vertical line down to the base. Do this all the way around your sphere. I decided to do half, let it sit, and then do the other half. I found this to be an easier method. Otherwise, you risk getting sticky white stuff all over your hands. Anywho, continue your striations top to bottom or bottom to top until you've covered at least half of your pumpkin. I'm spraying my pedestal with water to prevent it from sticking, something I should have done first, but I'm an agent of chaos and I do as I please. And this is what I get for not following my own rules. This is why gloves are essential when you have zero patience and don't want to lose the epidermal layer on your fingers. I had let this guy set for about 15 minutes and will now apply the second half of the striations. Whoomp! There it is, in all its glory, the most lopsided, bumpy, giant piece of popcorn I've ever made. No body shaming here, folks, 'cause she's perfect. Well, almost perfect. I would suggest giving the base of your pumpkin a bit of a trim with an X-Acto knife so it will sit flat while you continue to work on it. I've extended the blade out a few inches so I'm able to saw through the foamy base. I would highly suggest working on a cutting board and not a nice wooden dining room table. The Lazy Susan is not essential, but it sure is fun. I bought this one from IKEA with the intention of using it in art projects, so I'm not concerned about its well-being. Art is messy, so prepare yourself in advance and mitigate disaster. Rotate your pumpkin 360 degrees to see what looks most like a face, similar to what you would do with a real jack-o'-lantern. I like this side, as it's the most bulbous. Boop! Now comes the fun part of designing your character. This sweet sketch is what I based my previous creation on. As I'm working much smaller this time around, I'm going to do something much more simplistic. I'm thinking of doing a Jack Skellington monster pumpkin hybrid. First off, you're going to want to plot out the center of the face so you have a point of reference. Then, using your handy dandy Sharpie, simply draw on the eyes, nose, and mouth. Don't worry if you make a mistake, as you're eventually going to paint it. Time for a little destruction. Ha-cha! Extend your blade once more and go to town. Carve her up like a Christmas turkey. A few things to note here, this type of foam is not as difficult to carve as your standard orange gourd. It's relatively soft and lightweight. There are thick portions as my foam sphere wasn't uniform, so I have to remove certain sections layer by layer. Don't get overzealous with your blade, safety first. Do not cut towards your own hand. If you're a young child or a clumsy adult, don't even attempt this. Hand it over to someone who's more adept with a blade. For the love of God, please keep all your fingers safely secured to your hands. If you're making a costume, cut open the bottom according to your head size. I'm cutting out the base of this guy to insert a light, but you can totally do the reverse and cut the top off if you're simply using it as a Halloween decoration. Here I am cutting out the mouth. And you don't need narration for this, it's pretty self-explanatory. So I guess we can chat, and how's your day going? And I'm back. This thing is looking pretty cute if I do say so myself. One thing I noticed is there was a structural hole right through it at the base. If you find any holes or indentations you don't care for, no worries. We can just fill those in during the sculpting phase. Clean up your inner edges and remove any bits that are hanging off. Unless that's the vibe you're going for, that's cool too. You do you. Now for the really fun part, sculpting. You'll need tin foil, some kind of sculpting tool to add details, and some clay. I'm using foam clay. It's used a lot in cosplay, and it's lightweight, and it air dries. It's not my favorite, but it works well for this project. On my large pumpkin, I did all the facial details in foam clay, and it turned out pretty boss. I also installed lights with a battery pack on the interior. Something to note if you want to add lights and also wear this thing, make sure the lights are not shining in your eyes. Mine are separated by a sheet of EVA foam so I don't blind my damn self. This small container of foam clay was left over from my larger pumpkin and is probably around 2 years old. It has unfortunately solidified into a rubber ball and is therefore useless. Thankfully, my large sack o' clay seems to still be pliable. Foam clay gets increasingly malleable the more you manipulate and knead it, and it adheres really well to the porous texture of the foam pumpkin. I'm starting around the edges of the ocular cavity, pressing it into the rough surface for maximum adhesion. Keep a little container of water nearby to help smooth out the clay. I'm using a wooden skewer to add details and smooth out the surface, as I don't know where my sculpting tools are right now, so just use whatever you have on hand. This is the phase where you bring your character to life. Work around the face adding details until you achieve its desired appearance. Also, fill in any of those structural holes, nooks, or crannies that need a little love. I've decided to sculpt out the nose a little instead of carving it. This may or may not be a good idea, but I'm going to do it anyway. One thing to keep in mind when using foam clay is it does puff up when it dries, so don't get too attached to your amazing sculpting job as you may potentially lose some minute details. This is again why it's not my favorite medium. Next, I'm adding details to the nose using my wooden skewer, and then I'm picking my creature's nose with my pinky finger to further define his nostrils. I'm also intermittently using water to smooth out the surface. After the nose, I'm full on tackling the mouth. I'm basically rolling snakes with the clay, channeling my days in kindergarten playing with Play-Doh, as it has a similar texture and density. I'm building up the lips and filling in some holes in the base simultaneously. Now I'm using my skewer to make the indentations around his mouth to resemble more of a skull. Doing this seems to really bring this character to life. He's starting to look very spooky. Work your way all around, pressing the clay into the surface as you go. Use water where needed. It's tinfoil time. This is the stage where we build out the pumpkin stem. One mistake I made when building the large pumpkin is I didn't put anything inside the stem to support it, and instead made it entirely out of foam clay. It looked amazing when I initially sculpted it, but it became, let's say, increasingly flaccid as it dried. Consider tinfoil your little blue pill for foam clay support. Should I copyright that statement? Anyway, put a little bit of clay on the top of your pumpkin to keep the tinfoil structure in place, and then build up your clay around it. Use your fingertips and a bit of water to smooth the clay out. Then use your tool to add details to achieve your desired look. To further increase his creepiness, our boy needs some teeth. I'm making little triangles and pressing them into the bottom and top jaws, making sure to offset them so he'll have the illusion of being able to close his mouth. At this stage, he looks great. You'll see, however, that the foam clay has already started puffing up during the drying process, turning his nose from an innie to an outie. To turn the creep factor up to 11, I decided to use a few of the hundreds of plastic forks I've gotten with takeout food to make some additional spiky chompers. It's essential to cut the tines off the forks haphazardly, sending them flying around the room. Once you pick them up off the floor, you can just plunge them into the foam of the mouth. You can add some glue or clay, but I'm pretty confident they'll just wedge into the foam and stay secured. The foam clay has been drying for 24 hours, so it's now time to paint. Bring your creature outside or into your garage. As you can see, the clay expanded quite a bit during the drying process. My personal preference is to paint the entire thing black first. I'm using a black spray paint. This is the one I had on hand. It's the Rust-Oleum Ultra Cover Flat Black. I like this paint because it's really versatile and it's one of the more inexpensive brands. Coat your pumpkin thoroughly, getting in all the nooks and crannies, as well as the interior of the pumpkin. After the spray paint has dried, you can now do the ultra fun part. Let's face it, it's all fun, and paint it with acrylics. I have a metric ton of paint in giant tubs that were left over from a previous mural project, but any acrylic paint will do. You'll also need paintbrushes, a palette knife, and a paint palette or something to mix on. I also have a bag with assorted crafts and faux leaves, which, spoiler, I didn't end up using. Here I am mixing yellow and red together because color theory tells me that if I mix them together, I get orange. I went to college! I do have a tub or two of orange, but the paint is semi-opaque and I need better coverage. I'm also diffusing the color a little bit with brown or burnt umber or whatever that color was. Again, I am the product of a college education. Once you get your desired color, slather it on. The nice thing about doing the black base coat first is the black settles into the deep indentations that your paintbrush can't get to, and gives your creature a really cool sense of depth, dimension, and like all the D words. To get all of the different sides, I plopped my pumpkin into my paint bin on top of my Lazy Susan so I can rotate it and fully coat it with orange paint. Next, I've added some white and black paint to my paint palette. I'm also going to use some of the leftover orange for blending. I want this spooky dude to have a pseudo-skeleton appearance, So I'm adding black shadows to the eyes and mouth, and then blending out chalky white into orange to give the illusion of bone emerging from pumpkin flesh. During this phase, you're metaphorically breathing life into your character, so take your time and give it some personality. I'm also taking black paint and emphasizing some of the cracks on his face, as well as some of the areas I want to appear more shadowed. Adding these details makes your creation look more realistic. Work around the surface of the face, continuously standing back to admire your work, as this helps with consistency. Next, I'm emphasizing those bony indentations around his mouth and his nostrils to add detail and depth. Again with the D words. After that step, I'm adding white highlights around his mouth and on his nose. White helps to pop things forward, whereas black helps to make things appear receded. I then add white to his widow tifos to make him look really scary. Detail out his face a little more, and then add red stuff to his mouth. More red stuff equals more awesome. So go for it. Mix in touches of black and then brown to your red for optimal gore. Next, I'm painting the pumpkin stem. You can paint it green or brown, or in my case, a gross, muddy combination of both. I'll be honest, I was trying to expedite the process because I felt like the video was getting long, so I didn't do an amazing job. Just find some reference and make it look like a stem. The great thing about acrylic paint is that it dries quickly, so if you don't like your paint job, you can just paint over it. We're not saving lives here, people. We're just making a Halloween prop. My last step, and I swear it is taking some red, brown, and black paint, adding water, and splattering it with a paintbrush all over my little man's face. You should probably do this outside or cover your table before doing this step. I thought I was being tidy, but later realized my dining room wall looked like the inside of a slaughterhouse. Luckily, watered down acrylic wipes off really easily if you get to it relatively quickly. Repeat this process with different sized brushes if you're not getting good splatters, and rotate between your colors until you achieve the desired effect. Oh my god, guys, he's done! Look how cute! I mean, terrifying he is. Gah! You can add some fake vines or leaves to the top, or tattered fabric, or a light with a battery pack. I'm stopping here, but you can do whatever you want to make it next level. Here they are together. Let's light them up for full effect. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end. I hope you enjoyed the process of how to make your very own foam pumpkin. This is my first attempt at a video, so I really hope you had fun, and as the tubers say, remember to like, share, and subscribe. I plan on doing a variety of art videos, so I truly hope you come along for the ride. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see more crazy Halloween props, costumes, or weird creatures, as I've made some doozies in my time. I also plan on exploring all sorts of artistic mediums like painting, sculpture, wood carving, pottery, maybe some glass blowing, as long as it's my two hands and brain doing the creating. Until next time, take care and go make something cool.